Getting the movement you need to feel better can be a challenge. Now you can keep fit while you sit with QB, the world's leading compact seated elliptical. QB gives you active sitting, letting you burn calories and keep moving in an easy and low-impact way, all while you work, read, or watch TV. QB was named a top 10 gift by Time Magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. The Derek Chauvin trial, it has wrapped for the day as week 2 continues. Today, the focus was on officer training and whether or not Chauvin followed procedures when he restrained Floyd with his knee on Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes, as the world has now seen. In a minute, we will be speaking with a former Chicago police officer who's now an attorney who defends cops. Also, as the investigation into the Capitol riot continues, we're going to show you the high-tech surveillance techniques that the FBI is using to catch the bad guys. They're working, and that's good, but they're also revealing some really concerning issues when it comes to privacy. Issues that advocates regarding privacy have said are really concerning because it revolves around the tracking technologies that have become more and more effective as well as invasive, all without a national debate. Plus, as the race when it comes to vaccinations continue to soar, people are starting to go out more, travel, socialize, and we're looking to maybe get back to some normalcy. Could we be looking at another roaring 20s? We'll discuss and debate that coming up. But we begin tonight in Minneapolis in day 7 of the Chauvin trial. Now, it kicked off early this morning with George Floyd's friend, Maurice Hall, the man who was in the car with Floyd when he was arrested. Hall, he's been subpoenaed to testify, and the defense is more than likely planning to ask him questions about drugs and also the fake 20 Floyd that he passed at the convenience store that led to his arrest and inevitably that tragedy. But Hall's attorney says that he was planning to invoke the Fifth Amendment to avoid incriminating himself, so the judge ordered Chauvin's attorneys to submit questions they will ask Hall, and then it'll be revisited whether or not he'll be able to testify on Thursday. Now, once the testimony finally got underway, the focus, as I mentioned, was on training that Chauvin received and whether or not his pinning of Floyd was in line with police procedures. Minneapolis PD and the lieutenant who trains the officers there, including Chauvin, says what Chauvin did to Floyd is not in any manual.
Sir, is this an MPD trained neck restraint?
No, sir.
Has it ever been?
Not to my neck restraint, no, sir.
Lieutenant Mercer was also asked when it is the right time to stop using force to restrain someone.
Once the subject is handcuffed and compliant or not resisting, is the officer to remove their knee?
That would be an appropriate time.
Now, you should know that directly contradicts the defense argument.
Derek Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career. The use of force is not attractive, but it is a necessary component of policing.
Several other officers from Chauvin's department have also said under oath that what Chauvin did was clearly a breach of policy. Take a listen to this lieutenant with more than 25 years on the Minneapolis force.
Pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on the neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for.
And the chief of police, the man who fired Chauvin, he had this to say.
To continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy, is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
And late today, the prosecution called an expert witness on the use of force who's a sergeant in the LAPD. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Based upon your review of these materials and in light of the Graham factors, what is your opinion as to the degree of force used by the defendant on Mr. Floyd on the date in question?
My opinion was that the force was excessive.
I want to bring in now our first guest, Daniel Herbert. He's a former Chicago police officer, one-time Cook County prosecutor, and now he's a criminal defense attorney who has represented hundreds of police officers over the years. Your perspective so far in this case, specifically given the video that has been shown time and again here of that 9.5 minutes and some of the testimony to this point that the prosecution's laid out, including a lot of folks involved in law enforcement, including senior.
I think the case is going in really well for the prosecution. They've had the ability to call a number of on-the-scene witnesses, and essentially they can call all of these witnesses because of the fact that the defense has made the crowd a central issue in this case. And what that does is it allows the prosecution to really replay its greatest evidence, which is the videotape in this case. And the last couple of days, I thought, have been some of the most compelling testimony from the witnesses that are members of the Minnesota Police Department, specifically the chief of police. I thought he was very effective.
If you were representing Officer Chauvin, what would concern you most? The duration of the tape and how long it lasted and how long his knee was on his neck? That the crowd seemed to know innately that this doesn't look right here, we got a problem, you know, at least check the guy's pulse, or that this is in broad daylight, you got 3 officers, the guy secured and on the ground. What would be the hardest for you to argue for your client given the circumstances that the jury will see for themselves?
Well, in short, yes. Every one of those points are very damaging information. You know, this scene, I've equated it more to a Norman Rockwell setting than a very tense setting. It's a sunny, relatively pleasant afternoon. There doesn't seem to be a lot of criminal activity going on. The videotape, the length of it is horrific, and the fact that everyone in the crowd seemed to recognize what was happening was excessive. And then just to see kind of the life drained out of Mr. Floyd, it's just a very difficult video to watch, and it's going to be a difficult case to defend.
You know, Daniel, I was trying to say, well, if I'm sitting on the jury, what's going through my mind here? And everybody brings their personal experiences. For me, the cops have been really good in my particular life. A couple times where I've needed help, they were there. In one case, really showing real heroism. So I understand people's willingness to give the cops the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes I think this one size fits all that, hey, it's a really tough job, you know, try and walk a mile in these guys' shoes. And I think of, for example, the Ferguson, Missouri case. Michael Brown was not, in my view, some, you know, victim that wasn't foreseeable when he went to go reach for a cop's gun, that you might have seen a tragedy come out of it. But this is completely different, and attempts to equate all police incidents where deadly force is used as one and the same, I think it's a real disservice. And I think if the defense goes down that road, I think the jury knows better.
I would agree with you. You know, as a matter of fact, when I first saw this videotape, I was prepping an African-American police client, and ironically, he looked at it and thought that some of the actions were justifiable. And it was, you know, it kind of blew me out of the water, because I thought it was, you know, completely indefensible. Yes, you know, the prosecutors and specifically the defense they have to focus on the element of criminality. They have to focus on the police having to use force in situations so that we have a civil society. But at the end of the day, this case, I think that it's going to be difficult for the jurors to give Mr. Chauvin the benefit of the doubt here. And, quite frankly, the easy decision to make here is guilty. I mean, there's been so much pretrial publicity and so much animus towards Mr. Chauvin that really would take a exceptional juror, and I mean that exceptional from certainly not the norm, to be very strong-willed and stick to his or her opinion in this case.
He's looking at 3 charges, and you're the right guy to talk about this. I mean, you've worn every hat, from being a cop yourself to being a prosecutor and now as a defense attorney. Which charge do you think fits best between second and third degree murder and the manslaughter charge?
Well, I think third degree, if you look at this case and you take both sides into consideration, I certainly think that third degree, the elements there match the facts of this case the best. And the prosecution certainly recognized that as they went to great lengths to include this charge. The second degree case, I thought it might have been a bit of an overcharge, but with some of the testimony that they received yesterday and today, specifically from the supervisors in the police department, that really does speak towards a finding for second degree murder in this case. Clearly, Mr. Chauvin, did not wake up that morning and intend to kill George Floyd. So it's difficult to show that premeditation or the intent. But if the prosecutors are able to show that Mr. Chauvin's actions were not regulated by the police department, authorized by training, then they can show the intent to not commit a lawful detention, but in fact an assault. And if the death results from that assault, then clearly they can prove second degree in this case. Causation is obviously the most important element, I think, that the defense needs to attack in this case.
Daniel Herbert, I appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, coming up next, the FBI, they've arrested hundreds of the Capitol rioters using high-tech and surveillance. It's effective to catch the bad guys, but it is also raising real privacy concerns and talk of Big Brother. After the break, I will be speaking with the Washington Post reporter who's been digging into this story.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to a federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home.
Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
If something happened to you, What would happen to them, their home, their education, their future? You need life insurance, and chances are SelectQuote can help you get it for less than $1 a day.
SelectQuote found Jacob 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife Wendy a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates.
We found Gary, 35, a $1 million policy for only $22 a month.
Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
Call 800-717-7198 or go to selectquote.com now and get the insurance your family needs.
At a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
The investigation into the Capitol Hill riot continues, and the sheer size of the case, it is staggering. Justice Department says it's the most complex investigation ever handled, with more than 400 ongoing criminal cases, 300 suspects facing charges, and the FBI receiving more than 250,000 tips. The Bureau using a massive amount of digital technology to catch the rioters. And a recent piece in the Washington Post describes it, and I'm going to speak to the writer in a minute, but first, let me quote from that article. The FBI using license plate readers that captured suspects' cars on the way to Washington, cell tower location records that chronicled their movements through the Capitol complex, facial recognition searches that matched images to suspects' driver's licenses or social media profiles, and a remarkably deep catalog of video from surveillance systems, live streams, news reports, and cameras worn by the police. The Post, they focused on one couple from Pittsburgh who were there, showing all the different shots of them gathered from both videos posted online and security cameras at the Capitol. You have civil liberties groups, though, they're warning that when police use all of this technology, it does infringe on the privacy rights of Americans, and some of these techniques have resulted in lawsuits arguing it is unconstitutional for the government to track people. Let's bring in the co-author of that Washington Post article, technology reporter Drew Harwell. He joins us now. Drew, thank you.
Thank you.
You know, reading your piece that you put together with your colleague Craig Timberg, part of me felt great that the FBI and law enforcement has all these tools to go after people for a horrific day. But then when you follow the breadcrumbs about how they got to people and so easily, you wonder how far this could go. But am I asking the wrong question? Isn't the horse out of the barn? We may never have had a debate in this country about privacy rights, but it kind of has already been resolved whether we like it or not.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, the horse is out of the barn in terms of our rights of privacy, the amount of surveillance that the police can use, but that horse still has a long way to run, you know, and these systems are always expanding, always evolving. And that's what you saw with the Capitol case, you know, whether you feel good or bad or about a lot of these people being imprisoned. And, you know, this was a huge crime with, you know, people died amid it. These systems watch all of us, right? And, you know, this was such a great reminder that no matter what kind of social cause you support, no matter where you go, you're always kind of under watch by somebody. And it's kind of amazing how precise and how deep that data can really go.
You know, you went into some specific examples in there, but one, a single phone led to 12,000 pages of evidence. Give an idea to the audience about how, with one piece of technological evidence, how it could spawn into something so far-reaching.
You know, our phones are our lives, right? I mean, my phone certainly has a lot about me, photos, contacts, texts, and not just that, but the stuff you don't see, the metadata and the location details of where you've gone. And so one phone, plug it into a device that the police use to unlock locked phones, copy everything that's on there, ended up spewing out 12,000 pages of records, and, you know, even more in terms of Facebook and the other apps. And so, you know, that's what was kind of shocking to me. Even somebody who covers surveillance full time was seeing really the just sheer volume of data that is gathered about us and held by these private companies who are, likely to share it with law enforcement if they ask. And so, one phone, you could tell from a lot of these people, I could see exactly where they went in the Capitol, according to the FBI. I could see, when they got to Washington and when they left. In some cases, the FBI was even able to track back people to the hotels or the Airbnbs where they stayed, because they could see where their little phone location blip was, or where their car was parked. And so a ton of data about people that they have no idea that they're giving off, and have no idea until it's too late that it's already kind of implicated them in this crime.
Drew, when I saw that a lot of the connective tissue to that day was facial recognition, I just assumed, oh, well, they got a picture of the person, they ran it through the databases, and they found a mugshot of somebody or whatever else. They connected some of these to people's, applications for a driver's license, et cetera. And it gets you to thinking, you could be on any camera walking down any major city right now, and you may not have any criminal record, but they'll be able to basically connect the dots about your life.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what is really kind of scary about facial recognition. We've never really had something that identifies us whenever we go outside, knows where we're going, what path we took there. And, we're kind of still at the real ground level of facial recognition. The police really only use it in some limited ways. There's even some bans by cities that don't let their police use it. But, we're getting to the point where all of social media has been scraped. A lot of social media has been scraped, and you can connect a lot of these images to people's profiles. Like you said, I mean, there were cases where somebody had applied for a passport years ago, and that photo was still in the system by some local or federal government, and their facial recognition search was able to connect them right from that application, 5 years ago, to the image on the surveillance camera in January. And so, for that kind of thing, it's scary when it's accurate. It's also kind of scary when it's inaccurate. It's impossible not to be photographed, right, out in the real world, right? And so many of us have photos on social media now. How are those going to be connected, and could they be used against us? That's a big question.
Drew, a couple of years ago, I was doing a story about a major bridge was being rebuilt in the New York metropolitan area, and they'd gotten rid of the toll booths, and instead they were having the digital readers. And it was a small part of the story, but it started to unspool a little bit, because every car that was going across was being photographed, and all the license plate readers that were going on as well. And I said, wow, that's a lot of power to be held by the Department of Transportation, the Thruway Authority, whatever the case may be. But the more you dug into it, private companies were providing these resources gratis to the states or municipalities under the proviso that they could also get that data that was being acquired. So when you cross a bridge, what I was learning was a private company was keeping my data. Now, somebody said you could have a private investigator, let's say if there's some contentious divorce, and all of a sudden, if you pay a fee, you'll be able to find out the whereabouts, let's say, of a spouse or whatever else. I don't think people have fully grasped how much of this is in the private sector, not just at the public level. And, we talk about privacy. There's a commercial aspect to this, too, that's pretty chilling.
Yeah, that's such a good point. There are so many overlaps in terms of private data and public data that we just either don't have any insight into, or there's no court oversight over. Only the police who use it know about it, or only the private vendors who use it know about it. And yet, it's tracking our locations in ways that we never really expected. And yeah, like you said, there are a couple companies that run big databases full of license plate locations. So if you drive over that bridge, it knows exactly the second that you drove over. Are you going northbound, southbound, that kind of thing? And, get enough of those cameras and you can establish pretty much the breadcrumb trail for where you're going. In a lot of these capital arrests, there were, for one person's car, there were a dozen photos of them driving from New York to DC. They had no idea. And so, yeah, I mean, the public governments have these set up, for red light cameras, speed cameras, toll booths, bridges, overpasses, that kind of thing. All of that data goes into these big databases. There's billions of license plate detections now, and there's really not much people can do about it, right? You're in public, you can't hide your license plate. And so, these things have been around for a couple of years, but we're only really starting to understand what that's really doing to your privacy in a public setting. You already don't really have too much, but now the fact that your travel is being logged, how could that be used against you, right? I mean, if you're going, and where we go is a really sensitive thing. If you're going to a church, if you're going to a hospital for some sort of medical screening, all of that information is very sensitive. You may not want somebody to be able to track you that closely, but that's what this technology allows people to do. And one of the things you get from Drew's piece is, listen, I hopefully, an overwhelming majority of us want to have the book thrown at people who perpetrated those horrible crimes on January 6th. But before they even got to Washington, the vast amount of information that was being acquired on them without a warrant and without even a crime being committed. Now, was it contributory to bringing them to justice? It seems that way. But what about the rest of us? And where does it go? And again, I'll end this conversation where we started. These decisions may already have been made for us in many ways, and maybe it's long overdue we at least have the conversation, albeit a little bit late in the game. Drew Harwell, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Thank you. And coming up next, as the battle over transgender rights continues in this country, we're going to show you one Republican from a deep red state who's actually trying to protect this population. We'll also put a human face on the issue by showing you parents talking about their transgender kids and explaining why they need our government's help.
Is your AC busted, computer crashed, appliance broken? Then you need ARW, American Residential Warranty.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
Home appliance repairs and replacement can cause stress and cost you over $3,000 per year. But starting at less than $1 a day, ARW has home warranty plans that cover household appliances, systems, and electronics. Parts and labor included.
When I needed ARW, they were there. My oven actually took a dive in the middle of making a big dinner for family and friends, picked up the phone, called ARW, they repaired it, dinner saved, that easy.
My air conditioning broke on a Sunday. It was so hot, I called ARW and they came out and fixed it right away.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, even pools and spas, and so much more. All you have to do is call or go to getahomeplan.com. Plus, ARW's partner with Assurant to offer protection for all your new and used household electronics for just one low price.
I dropped my laptop and ARW replaced it with a brand new one, and all I paid was a small service fee.
All plans are fully customizable and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get a home security system valued at $1,250 free with any plan. And you can trust ARW to be there when you need them. Just call ARW and a licensed technician will be dispatched to your home. All covered repairs are guaranteed.
My refrigerator broke, and not only did ARW repair it fast, they even sent me a reimbursement check for all the food that went bad.
So come on, relax. Stop worrying about unexpected breakdowns and costly repairs. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
Call 1-800-253-1237. Again, that's 1-800-253-1237 or log on to getahomeplan.com today.
Help. When you fall and can't get help,
Help.
You will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in the shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
for a free Life Alert brochure. Call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
If House Bill 1570 becomes law, then we are creating new standards of legislative interference with physicians and parents as they deal with some of the most complex and sensitive matters involving young people. The most recent action of the General Assembly, while well-intended, is off course, and I must veto House Bill 1570.
That is the Republican governor of Arkansas announcing his veto of a bill that would have banned surgery and medications that help transgender minors become the gender that they identify with. But both the state Senate and legislature, they've just voted to overturn that veto. So now Arkansas, the first state in the union to ban those treatments. Also, several Republican-led states, they've either passed into law or are working on bills that will restrict that population's rights. Missouri, one of them. And during the debate in the legislature, I want you to listen to what this man had to say. He was one of the speakers who opposed the bill, and he's got a direct connection to it. It would impact his daughter.
For years, I would not let my daughter wear girl clothes. I did not let her play with girl toys. I forced my daughter to wear boy clothes and get short haircuts, play on boy sports teams. Why did I do this? To protect my child. I did not want my daughter or her siblings to get teased. And truth be told, I did it to protect myself as well. I wanted to avoid those inevitable questions as to why my child did not look and act like a boy. My child was miserable. I cannot overstate that. She was absolutely miserable, especially at school. No confidence, no friends, no laughter. I honestly say this, I had a child who did not smile. We did that for years. We did that against the advice of teachers, therapists, and other experts. I remember the day everything changed for me. I'd gotten home from work, and my daughter and her brother were in the front lawn. And my daughter had sneaked on one of her older sister's play dresses. And they wanted to go across the street and play with the neighbor's kids. It was time for dinner. I said, come in. She asked, can she go across the street? I said, no. She asked me if she went inside and put on boy clothes, could she then go across the street and play? And it's then that it hit me that my daughter was equating being good with being someone else. I was teaching her to deny who she is. As a parent, the one thing we cannot do, the one thing, is silence our child's spirit. And so on that day, my wife and I stopped silencing our child's spirit. The moment we allowed my daughter to be who she is, to grow her hair, to wear the clothes she wanted to wear, she was a different child. And I mean, it was immediate. It was a total transformation. I now have a confident, a smiling, a happy daughter. She plays on a girls' volleyball team. She has friendships. She's a kid.
This all comes as U.S. senators taking up the Equality Act. It's an LGBTQ rights bill that passed the House despite Republican opposition. Democratic Congresswoman Marie Newman, she's one of the sponsors of the bill, and she shared her personal story during a recent hearing describing why it's important to pass this into law.
More than 5 years ago, before she had transitioned, my daughter, at just 14 years old, had experienced deep depression and anxiety. Unable to identify the cause of her pain, she told her parents that the only two solutions she felt would solve it was either suicide or running away. Heartbroken but determined not to lose our child, we enrolled in a local day therapy program. One night after her program, my daughter perked up in her chair at the dinner table, excited to share some news. She told us she had figured it out. Mom, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl, and my name is Evie Newman. Everything had clicked at that moment. She had been pretending to be something she wasn't. She wasn't being authentic. Still, as a mother, I knew the challenges ahead. My daughter would not grow up in a nation where, as an example, in 25 states, she could be discriminated against merely because of who she was.
I just want to say, if any of the people who've appointed themselves the morality police as to what a child and a family should do when a child doesn't see themselves in the mirror the way that they were brought in this world, listen to those parents and listen to those people and really think hard if these people are doing this just to be different or if they're just trying to find their true selves. All right, when we come back, we will pivot to COVID and to vaccinating the most vulnerable. A woman who's helping thousands of Holocaust survivors get inoculated. She'll join us.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for dental visits. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay for transportation to my doctor. Did you?
I didn't know some Medicare Advantage plans may pay to have my prescriptions delivered directly to my home. Did you?
These and more are important benefits some Medicare Advantage plans may give you. So if you're eligible for Medicare, call us right now because you could enroll in a plan with some amazing additional benefits. Call now.
This is important news for people who took certain drugs for HIV and then suffered serious injury to their kidneys or bones. Your HIV drug could have contained TDF, an ingredient known to increase the risk of kidney disease and kidney failure. TDF has also been linked to bone fractures, bone density loss, and softening of the bones. If you or a loved one took Truvada, Viriad, Atroplus, Stribild, or Complera and then suffered from kidney disease, kidney failure, bone fractures, osteoporosis, osteopenia, or osteomalacia, call the lawyers at Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. If you or a loved one took any of these medications and were then diagnosed with kidney disease, kidney failure, bone fractures, bone density loss, or softening of the bones, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
We're going to be spending the next couple of segments talking about COVID, including the pace of vaccinations and also how quickly we may expect to see a return to normalcy. But in this segment, we're going to be focusing on a particular group of survivors. The virus that has killed more than 555,000 Americans. It's ravaged nursing homes and been particularly deadly for the elderly. And for the next few minutes, we focus on one particular portion of this group here. Tens of thousands of people who survived the Holocaust are particularly vulnerable, as they're all at least 75, with many of them much older than that. Of the estimated 350,000 Holocaust survivors globally, 1/10 of them live in the New York City region. Plus, it's estimated that 4 in 10 of them are living below the poverty line. Many groups, including the United Jewish Appeal or the UJA, that are helping to inoculate these survivors. I want to bring in our guest, Hindi Pupka. She's the UJA's Deputy Chief Planning Officer. She's kind enough to give us a few minutes. Hindi, I was surprised just more broadly when it comes to folks 85 and older, only 42%, if I read that right, have been actually vaccinated to this point. Obviously, given the the sensitivity of the particular age group here and how vulnerable they might be. Why is that? Is technology a big hurdle?
First of all, thank you for having me and for raising this important conversation on population. Yes, certainly technology remains a hurdle. January may seem like many years ago to some of us, but it was only a few months ago when the vaccines first came on scene that one would literally need about 3 laptops operating at the same time with multiple websites up in an attempt to find a vaccine appointment. So it's no surprise, and frankly, it should have been no surprise to public health officials that seniors who are not digital natives had a lot of trouble. And for those that were not fortunate enough to have that digitally savvy grandchild making an appointment for them, many of them were left behind, and that's precisely when and why we stepped in.
You know, I mentioned some numbers off the top, but so many of these folks obviously isolated because of COVID, and a lot really up there in years, but 40% living below the poverty line here, that's got to be a horrible combination of factors, and that's why groups like yourselves stepping in here, right?
Absolutely. In many ways, New York, frankly, is privileged to be home to so many Holocaust survivors whose stories, one can argue, are more important now than ever. These are individuals who have witnessed and experienced the worst of humankind. And it is a painful reality here in New York that so many of them remain alone and wondering where their next meal will come from. Now, thankfully, we have a robust social safety net here in New York, and we take care of our most vulnerable, including our survivors. Many of them are Russian speaking or Yiddish speaking, and many of them, quite tragically, never got married again or had children or grandchildren that are able to care for them. And again, we are blessed here in New York that we have organizations like Self-Help, Met Council, the Claims Conference, countless organizations that UJA Federation supports to ensure that our Holocaust survivors can experience their remaining years here on Earth in dignity.
One of the moving elements of this story, Hindi, is that I think a lot of this population doesn't fully realize just how important they are, and especially for what this world's gone through in the last year, how inspiring their resilience is. Did a lot of them get a reality check from not just groups like yours, but from the community for the appreciation? I mean, if not for them, if not for their perseverance, so many people wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, as you're speaking, one moment that comes to mind is, so we have been working with our community partners, as you know, to ensure that survivors get vaccinated. And that doesn't only mean getting them an appointment. It doesn't take a historian to understand why a Holocaust survivor doesn't feel comfortable at a mass vaccination site. So a lot of the systems that the city and state set up to vaccinate seniors just weren't right for Holocaust survivors. So we set up vaccination pop-ups in culturally competent ways in their neighborhoods. And one of them that we did most recently was in the Borough Park neighborhood, home to many traditionally Orthodox Jews. There was a 97-year-old survivor of Auschwitz. And we told her that Mayor de Blasio wanted to come and say hi to her. This was a pop-up in particular that we did with New York City. And to your point about survivors being reminded of their incredible importance and sort of the commitment that we continue to have for them, she broke down in tears. She said in her accent, "The mayor wants to meet me." And we said, "Of course the mayor wants to meet you. He had a commitment to survivors. He would be so honored to meet you." And to see her break down in tears was inspiring and also tragic, because it should be no surprise that they are most precious community and must be held with the utmost care and support.
Yeah, I can only imagine some of the trauma this last year's reintroduced for this population. Do you feel, Hindi, that major inroads in the last month or so have been made? Where are we in terms of how many people we still got to get vaccinated here in this vulnerable population?
We have thankfully moved the needle. In part, this is thanks to the commitment of New York City. Mayor de Blasio said very clearly a number of months ago that he would not rest until all survivors that wanted to get vaccinated were indeed vaccinated. Just to sort of give you a sense of what's involved in vaccinating Holocaust survivors. So think of the Russian-speaking survivor population. First of all, keep in mind that they have been targets of a terrible anti-vax campaign on the part of the Russian government. So first there needs to be education done. Then there has to be culturally competent and Russian-speaking resources available to them. So knowing about the anti-vax education of the Russian-speaking Holocaust survivor population, and of course their language needs, we hosted a pop-up in Bensonhurst in their area. They pull up in a Russian-speaking car service. They are greeted by their Russian-speaking social worker that they had not seen for a year, but are so happy to be reconnected with, and walk into the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, that they walked into so many days before this pandemic. So thanks to efforts like that, bringing vaccines to their neighborhoods with people they know and trust in culturally competent ways, we have significantly moved the needle. The work that we have to do and that lies ahead is with homebound survivors. This is not unique to the survivor population. Homebound seniors in New York and across the country continue to be left behind. Now, initially, public health officials said, wait till Johnson & Johnson. Guess what? Johnson & Johnson has been around for quite some time now, and yet many homebound survivors and seniors remain unvaccinated. We are hopeful, however, through our partnership with the city and the commitment of incredible healthcare partners, that in the next 2 weeks, we will be starting a homebound initiative for survivors in New York City. But that is an incredibly complex and critical operation that has not yet begun, and that is where the work lies ahead.
Well, you're the last person to have to talk about how important what lies ahead is for folks who define perseverance, but I appreciate all the efforts you guys and others are doing on this front, and thank you for giving us a few minutes.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back, everyone. Stay with us.
Clean up your lawn and garden the smart way with a DR Chipper Shredder. Drop lighter materials into the shredder and the DR will pulverize it into a fine mulch you can use to enrich your soil. Reduce leaves, garden cuttings, sticks and twigs, even big branches, to a fraction of their original volume. The chipper cuts branches up to 5 inches thick into attractive wood chips that are great for landscaping. A DR Chipper Shredder is a complete yard and garden tool that turns your trash into treasure and leaves your property looking great. There's a full line of DR chippers and chipper shredders, including towable and 3-point hitch models.
Go online to drchipper.com to request your free product catalog. All DR Chipper models are on sale and free shipping is in effect. Plus, with our easy financing plan, you can get your DR now and make low monthly payments. Hurry, this offer won't last, so go online today. That's drchipper.com.
Are you over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days? I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. Call now for this free book on maximizing your income in retirement. Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers from leading financial firm J.D. Mellberg. That's right, free. This book reveals little-known truths about annuities in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we're about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known truths we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity, and it's free. Call 800-851-7261. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. We researched numerous products and summarized rates and benefits of annuities, all from Silac Insurance Company. Call 800-851-7261. That's 800-851-7261. Call now.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen, but Mary has the ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. The sooner you call, the sooner you can reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial.
Call 800-683-1390. That's 800-683-1390.
Too many people who've seen the end in sight think we're at the finish line already. But let me be deadly earnest with you. We aren't at the finish line. We still have a lot of work to do. We're still in a life and death race against this virus. Until we get more people vaccinated, we need everyone to wash their hands, socially distance, and mask up.
President Biden today urging Americans not to lose their focus on COVID and its risks, even as he announces 150 million vaccine shots have been administered, that all adults will be eligible for vaccinations in 2 weeks, and that the nation continues to run ahead of the president's vaccine schedule. But there's still no consensus on the best way to get us more back to quote-unquote normal once more people are vaccinated. For example, the pushback against so-called vaccine passports continue. Texas today banning state agencies, I should say, from requiring vaccine passports, following a similar measure that we've seen in Florida. And the World Health Organization came out today against vaccine passports for international travel because they say it's still not clear if the vaccines block all COVID transmission. But with our or without our vaccine passports, and as transmission rates remain high enough for restrictions and warnings to remain in place, more and more Americans, they are voting, as they say, with their feet. They're acting like we're almost fully back to normal. The #1 movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, just had the best box office numbers of any movie since the pandemic hit, even though it's also available to stream, and that happened with less than 60% of theaters actually even open. Experts now bullish on movie theater stocks, thinking customers will soon return. And Americans, they're starting to fly again. TSA agents screened more than 1.3 million Americans on Friday ahead of Easter. That's the biggest single day at U.S. airports since March 2020. Investors predicting a big year for hotels and everything else related to travel and tourism. And this scene yesterday, the Texas Rangers had a full house on opening day with more than 38,000 fans showing up. Masks worn, at least when they walked in. The majority of those seemed to go by the wayside once the game started. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he declined to throw out the first pitch because he boycotted it after baseball moved its All-Star game out of Atlanta in protest of the Georgia restrictive voting laws that they just passed. But all that activity with all those people, it's got us to thinking, are we going to return to normal quicker than maybe we even first thought? And we're not the only ones asking this. The health team at the Washington Post out today with this piece asking if we are heading for a post-pandemic, quote-unquote, roaring 2020s with parties and excess, given how many Americans have had to abandon their social lives during COVID and how many are itching to get back out there and mingle. Andrew's back now, and listen, we all get it. This has been a horrible year, and unless you're, an agoraphobe who wants to be locked indoors, you're itching to get out. But to what end, and what will the new normal look like? And we were talking in the morning meeting, like even movies. I don't know when I'm fully vaccinated if it's going to be a fear of getting the virus. But Andrew, for me, I'm going to work calculations into it. Is it really worth kind of an exposure for a movie when I can watch it at home? And is it more convenient to watch it at home? There's no way I'm getting on a cruise, maybe because I didn't really want to anyway. I've been on a few and I've loved them, but also the risk reward that's also attached to it. I think everyone's got to create their own lines.
Well, first of all, have we changed the way we do something? Has technology changed the way we do something? So, for example, yeah, I think movie theaters are not going to see the numbers return in the same level that we saw before the pandemic because streaming at home is such a viable option. And yes, some business travelers may not have to travel as much because they can have meetings over Zoom as opposed to meetings in person, but I think we're both in agreement. Travel is going to just go nuts this year. Everybody's going to travel if they can for any reason whatsoever. For the rest of it, I think it's going to be, we're such a fragmented society. You know, we have such, very narrow interests, and we can find people who have the same narrow interests that we do. And so people will react in those small groups the way that they do. So some people will start partying, I think, right away. Some people are going to take a long time before they get back to their normal routine of going out. Some people are going to stay at home a lot more than they did.
Though, Andrew, in the 20 to 40 age group, restaurants, bars are gonna be packed. People want to be around other people, assuming that the COVID concerns aren't going to preclude them from doing it. Some of the other stuff, maybe you're right. Now, I've seen some people even start to say they don't want to go back to the office place. They want to continue to work remotely, and other businesses say, no frickin' way, it's not going to happen.
Or some combination.
But people want to be around other people.
They do. They do. And it's funny because this was one of the topics that we discussed on January 1st. Every New Year's we do a look behind and a look ahead. And I was wondering on January 1st if this is going to be sort of like what we saw in the 20s, people who were cooped up and want to get out and experience everything. I think you're going to see a swinging single scene, if you will. I think you might see people getting married in greater numbers just because having spent the year off on their own.
But the baby boom didn't happen as people had projected. They thought there'd be a huge rise there in terms of infants born because of COVID, the lockdown, and the togetherness.
I'm not sure a weird, unsettled period is the right time to start family planning.
Listen, I do think the things you lived without and then realized you never really missed, that I think will change consumption models going forward. But I think the need to be around other people, it's going to be high, and I think that trade-offs that we all make, that risk reward, what's worth it, what's not. I think it'll be unique to everybody.
Yeah, and we were talking about it this morning. It's a combination of, are you vaccinated, because that reduces your risk, but then what are the vaccination and the transmission rates in the area where you live or the area where you want to go visit on vacation? Because if they're high, you probably should still curtail your activities.
Oh, even and I'm halfway there with my vaccination, even when I'm fully vaccinated, I'm going to be a heck of a lot more comfortable, and obviously my family unit. But if people aren't requiring other people to be vaccinated to where we're going or what we're doing, it will factor into the equation.
It will, and everybody's going to be different. You've eaten at restaurants. I still haven't yet. Everybody does it differently.
And 100 years ago, by the way, they did have the equivalent of vaccine passports before we talk about going into uncharted territory. It is not. All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up.
8 years ago, my daughter called to say she was expecting our first grandchild. But I never actually heard her say that. And the first time my granddaughter called me Papa, I didn't hear that one either. Can you imagine? Oh, I know I lost some of my hearing, but I was embarrassed, too stubborn to admit that. For Father's Day a few years ago, Gina and Ryan bought me a nano hearing aid. And my precious Ryan, I love hearing her call me Papa. I love hearing everything again.
What have you not heard by not wearing a hearing aid? You're going to have many more special moments in your life. Don't miss hearing a single one of them. Call Nano. Order your full pair of hearing aids for only $297.
1-800-259-1401.
Make today the day you finally start hearing better again with Nano hearing aids.
1-800-259-1401. 1-800-259-1401.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month, or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off.
1-800-914-9103. That's 1-800-914-9103.
Factory trained and certified installers made in the USA, and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath & Shower, the leader in affordable bathroom products.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether.
Call 1-800-590-7496.
That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, as always, for being a part of this program. We'll be back here tomorrow evening, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope to see you then.
Shake your